Here in Magnolia Bend, we're in agricultural zone 9A, although the thermal mass of the bay and other microclimate factors probably pushes us closer to 9B than locations that are further inland. This means that we can generally grow perennials that are hardy down to about 25 degrees Fahrenheit. But every 10 years or so, the polar vortex that encircles the North Pole weakens or destabilizes, causing some of that cold air to stretch all the way down across North America to reach us. And if that phenomenon happens to coincide with a low pressure system that pulls in moisture from the warm air over the Gulf of Mexico, we can even get some snow. But historically, these events are quite rare. And when they do occur, it's typically only an inch or two of snow that accumulates on the ground. So you can imagine our surprise when it started snowing on the morning of January 21st this year, and it simply didn't stop. Over the course of about 12 hours, the skies dumped 8 inches of snow on Magnolia Bend. The temperature the following morning dropped to a record-tying low of 18 degrees, with 48 hours straight of sub-freezing temperatures that kept the snow on the ground for days after the storm had ended. As winter approaches once again, I'd like to talk a bit about how this black swan blizzard has affected our project here in Magnolia Bend. And I think the best way to do that is to simply walk around and show you what we've been doing over the past 10 months and explain how our philosophy has shifted in terms of the perennials we're growing. If that sounds interesting to you, then stay tuned, it's coming up. All right, let's start with the front yard. Here in the front, we got this little group of natives that I've been letting grow. Some might call them weeds, but I just think they're cool natives. Look how big those St. Andrew's cross are getting. You know, I don't usually see them that big in the wild. I guess they get too much competition, at least around here. I think that's dog fennel right there. There's a bunch of late bone set that flowered. And it all looks pretty rough right now because it's dying back for the winter. I'll come out here and cut most of it down once it really does start dying. It hasn't rained in a while either, although it's supposed to rain later today. Now up here by the north fence, we did quite a bit of work building a shallow bed underneath these oaks. And you may remember from a while back, I guess it was a couple of years ago now, we transplanted that azalea from the woods. It's getting pretty big, filling out, because it was just a stick when we transplanted it, sitting in the woods, not really getting any sunlight. And what we decided to do, we transplanted a bunch of stuff from the woods, a bunch more stuff. Like that's a southern wax myrtle. There's a large gallberry holly, native holly. That's a groundsel bush, it's getting big. And then every other gap between the trees, we planted a southern wax myrtle. So like there's a little one there. That is another groundsel bush, and then we skipped one, and then here's another southern wax myrtle, groundsel bush, wax myrtle. And here's the only ones that aren't native. This is a Fatsia japonica, I think common name. Some people call it a paper plant. It's got a few common names, but that's one that my mom had gave me, and I transplanted it out here. Looks pretty rough right now at the end of the fall, but it'll come back. I still need to put a wax myrtle right there. Then here we have this is an inkberry holly. This is another native holly. I transplanted this one from the marsh, near the marsh. That's where a lot of them grow. And then this Fatsia japonica I actually grew from seed, so it's getting decently big. They're pretty slow growing compared to some other stuff. Here's a camellia. I think that's a Camellia japonica that we transplanted, and that is a horse sugar plant. It has a few common names, but it's a native that grows in our woods. We also built this bed underneath this really long oak limb. It's such deep shade. We tried to plant a bunch of like ferns, and it does have one kind of shrub in it right there. That's a coastal dog hobble. They generally grow right inside like a tree line, so it's used to getting deep shade. It can't handle much sun at all. It's doing pretty good so far. We made a couple beds here under this oak, this small oak. That's another Camellia japonica and a hydrangea right there. There's our Louisiana irises that were transplanted. They need water probably. Now here, along this eastern fence by the gate, I don't know if you remember, but there was a couple magnolia seedlings, not seedlings, they were about, I don't know, 6-8 feet tall, and maybe even a bit taller than that. And there was a oak tree underneath that big oak tree right there. My mom had planted them, and I ended up cutting them down. I didn't really want to, because I mean, I hate to cut down something my mom planted, but also, you know, I mean, it's Magnolia Bend. You say, well, why are you cutting down magnolia trees? But I have a good reason for it. I mean, for one thing, you can't really screen a property line with a huge tree like a live oak or a magnolia. I mean, it might work while it's small, but you can see these oak trees now. I mean, what is it really screening? It's like a trunk that's, you know, a couple feet, 3-4 feet in diameter, but then all the foliage is at the top. So it doesn't really make sense to have them planted here. And another thing is, look where the house is. That's pretty close. Magnolia trees have crazy roots that'll eventually crawl under there and start busting up the foundation of the house. So it just really didn't make sense to have them right here. So I went ahead and cut them down, and we planted some other stuff that will be better as screens. Like this is a Japanese Clayera. I think the variety is like Bronze Beauty. It's from the Southern Garden collection, but I thought it looked pretty cool. So it's not really grown too much yet because it's only been in the ground a little over a year. But all this stuff that I'm showing you right now survived the snow. So like all this stuff was completely buried under snow and it came back, including that Clayera and this. This is I think its scientific name is Mojave pyracanthus. It's firethorn is the common name. It's got crazy thorns on the stem. You probably can't really see them right now, but this will get really huge and be like a good screen if I can train it right through pruning. This is a Florida anise, yellow anise, I think it's called. It's somewhat of a native. For the southeast, it's a native. I don't know if it grows naturally right here in Magnolia Bend, but there's one growing there now. That's a pretty cool plant. And then here's a bay leaf plant. You know, funny thing about this one is it was real small when it went through the freeze, through the blizzard, you know, and I thought it was dead because all the stems died back and it didn't do anything for, you know, until kind of late in the spring. But then I saw one little leaf growing out of the remaining stem, and it survived. It just looked like it died, so it's trying to make a comeback now. There's another one of those ingberry hollies, native holly. Camellia sasanqua we transplanted. It's struggling, but I just fertilized it. I think that was the problem. We're going to talk about that in another video, the micronutrient situation. And there's that Fothergilla major. I showed that in a different video. It gets eat to shit. The grasshoppers love it, but it always comes back, it seems, with the leaves. And there's a Camellia japonica that we transplanted. And then here's the larger Fatsia japonicas, the paper plants. They're doing good. They're blooming right now, so there's a ton of weird looking bees and flies and stuff on them. Some split leaves that are struggling. Hopefully the fertilizer helps. But all this stuff survived the blizzard. It's a Sasanqua that's blooming. That one's real healthy. Then here we planted this is a Osmanthus fragrans. It's a tea olive. This is the Asian one. There's also an American version, a native to North America, but I wasn't able to find it online. I guess people like this one more, but I figure it's more or less the same, very similar. It has very fragrant flowers, hence the name fragrans, the species name, but it's slowly getting bigger. And then here we have this is a weeping Yaupon holly. Yaupon holly is very common around here, but this is like a weeping version. So if you've ever seen a big one there, it almost looks like a weeping willow, how it hangs down. You can kind of see the habit starting to form the way it's doing right there. It's got red berries on it right now. Wildlife like them. There's another, that's a Camellia japonica. It's got severe chlorosis, but it's actually getting better, I think, since I fertilized it. I'm gonna make a whole separate video talking about the fertilizer situation, so we won't get into it too much here. Here I planted a couple of those groundsel bushes, transplanted them, and then in the middle, that's one of those native honeysuckle azaleas from near the marsh. I thought it was dying, but it's got a bunch of new growth coming up from the base, so it should be okay. So here I was trying to screen this corner a little bit more, and I put a Sweet Bay Magnolia here. This stuff we just did, so this didn't survive the blizzard, but what I realized is, you know, if we're gonna have that kind of snow even every once in a while, we really need something that's gonna survive it. So this will, that Sweet Bay. These are two loquat trees my dad gave me. We planted them out here, and something came up and ate every single leaf off of them. So I put this chicken wire around it, and they're recovering. They're doing okay now. I kind of got them close together, so they'll eventually grow into each other, and I'll just kind of form them as a single tree, like a multi-trunk tree, even though they're technically separate trees. Now this we did very recently, in the last month or two. This is a Sasanqua right here that a friend gave us. I planted some ajuga here on the ground that I salvaged from a job site. And then in the back I've got some groundsel bushes. You probably can't see them on here because they're little twigs right now. This is a hibiscus. It looks like something came out here and ate every single leaf off of it. Hopefully it survives. I guess I'm gonna have to build something around that too. I think the deer are getting more brave coming up here closer to the house. But yeah, hopefully that survives. I just noticed that's happened in the last day or two since I was out here. Then I just put a rosemary plant here on the end. Try to get it in a drier place. It doesn't like a lot of water. This is a groundsel bush. This is what they look like. I actually just tip pruned it. But this is like how big they start getting. That's probably about the max size it'll really get, because I haven't really pruned it much at all. That's about 8 feet tall maybe. I like it. It's a good screening plant. It's a little thin right now because I had never tip pruned it, so it never really filled out too much, but we'll see what it does now. And then here's another one. These just grew naturally, so I'm just letting them grow. Kind of mulched around it, give it a little bit of protection. There's some more over here we're going to see. See these right here? There's a groundsel. One there, one over by that oak. Here's a pond cypress that I planted recently. It looks dead because it went into dormancy now, but it should come back in the spring. I think that'll be a nice centerpiece down here on the marsh, right on the edge. Take a while for it to grow, of course. More groundsels. These all grew naturally. I didn't plant these out here. There's a southern wax myrtle's getting pretty big. Now I've been letting the dip grow up. I probably mentioned it in another video, I can't remember, but you know, because I was weed eating all this. And I said, man, what the hell am I doing that for? Just let that grow back up like it used to be when my grandfather was living here. Same thing here. This whole dip between the properties, I mean, I left like a little path so we can get over to the boysenberries, but there ain't no sense in cutting all this. I mean, my mom was cutting it all, but you know, she had a big zero-turn mower for one thing, and also just, I guess she felt like cutting it. And we cut it for a while. I mean, it looks good. It looks like a golf course, but I don't necessarily want to live on a golf course. And you know, when I was a kid, this had like pine trees and stuff in it. This was more grown up, at least this part right here, closer up to the water. So I'm just gonna let it do that again. I mean, that's a lot more habitat for wildlife and stuff. So here's the boysenberries. Did a recent video about them, so don't need to talk about them too much, but they're doing fine. Now here's the new ones. Now, same thing as like we just saw with that hibiscus, that Althea hibiscus. The deer or something came out here and ate, I'm assuming it was deer, came out here and ate most of the leaves off these things, these little seedlings. So I got them caged up, but they're all fine. They got new growth on them since then, and they're protected now, so they'll bounce back. Like I said in the video on these, it's hard to kill these things, especially once you get their roots established, which these are now. So they'll be fine as long as I keep them covered up. They're coming back. So just keep them covered up till they do. I still need to build the trellis part of this, but like I said, it ain't no rush. I might even do that in the spring. We also built this little kind of bed thing out here. This is the western property line where I've stopped cutting right there. And this is just some groundsel trees that we transplanted here. They get beat up by the wind kind of right here on the hill by the water. Like that one fell over. I'm gonna let it try to survive and then maybe cut it down, trim it back in the spring so it grows back straight. They recover pretty well though. In fact, that one there on the end completely broke off. All that you see right there is like regrown from where it broke off. There's the platform. See, a lot of those inkberry hollies and some of the groundsel bushes and stuff that I showed you earlier came from right in here. Over by that oak tree, there's a whole patch of them, that kind of stuff over there. So I just kind of stole a few out of that. There's a lot of pretty flowers, wildflowers down here, that elephant's foot, and then some of that blue mist flower. And also, can't really see it now because it's gone, but those, right on the front of that platform over there is a stand of, I think they call them swamp sunflowers, maybe. I'll look it up and put it on the screen, whatever it was, but I think that's what they call them. All right, let's head back over here. Here's those leaf mold containers that we built. We've been in such a severe drought that I don't think decomposition is really proceeding that quickly, because I just don't have any irrigation or anything over here to water them, and I certainly don't have time to stand over here and water them. But they'll be all right. Leaf mold really takes a couple years anyway, so we'll eventually get some out of it. Patience is key on that kind of stuff. There's a concrete slab under all those boards. It's not that big, probably, I don't know, 12 feet by 12 feet. But I'd like to eventually put some kind of miniature greenhouse there, if I can. Those fig trees around it are looking pretty bad. They're not dead yet, but I don't know if it's a drought or what, but they're looking really bad. There's some goldenrods that are taller than me behind these compost bins. Look at that one. It's like 7 to 8 feet tall right there. That split leaf's looking a lot better right there. And there's a American Beauty berry I'm letting grow. It just sprung up there and it's kind of going out for the season. You can still see a few little berries on it right there, but letting that one grow. So here's some of the bad news from the blizzard. All but one of our citrus trees died. You know, they just had snow on them for so long. The ground was frozen for so long. They just can't handle that. And that's why we kind of decided that whatever we plant now is gonna be able to withstand pretty much anything this area can throw at it, like especially drought, freezes, hard freezes, sometimes some snow, and the salt from the bay, the wind, the hurricanes. Like, there's no sense in planting something that takes, you know, 10, 15 years to get big if it's just gonna die. You know, for some reason, the smallest and most pitiful looking citrus is the one that survived, and I can't figure that out. I guess it has completely different rootstock. It is a different type of citrus. I don't know the exact types of any of them because my mom's the one that had planted them, but this one did survive, so I guess we'll get a little something off of it. But instead of going back with citrus, we planted, this is what they call a Prague viburnum. It's got some really cool flowers, and I mean, it's just a little baby right now, but once it gets bigger, it'll look cooler and kind of screen this area a little bit from the road. And this is I think they call it it's another Yopon holly. I think this is the Pride of Houston. It's just a cultivar that they developed that has a pretty cool habit, pretty cool shape. So it's doing fine. Like Yopon holly, like the woods is full of it. We're gonna talk more about that in another video. But I really like this Fatsia japonica right here that my mom had planted, just the way it grew. It looks really cool. Hopefully I can get the other ones over there on the eastern property line that big. So let's go in the fence yard. I'll show you the garden and stuff. Some of that ornamental ginger that my mom planted. I like it, it looks cool. The only problem with it is the hard freeze always kills it back. And then I have to come out here and cut it up for the compost, although it does make good compost, all those big leaves and stems and stuff. It's a lot of good nitrogen for the compost at a time of year when there's not a lot of grass to be cut or anything. Here's the ramp bed. We got, what do we got in here? I think some turnips and maybe radishes and stuff. There's some carrots right here. You probably can't see them because they're so small. But it's just the drought has been so crazy. It's been really hard to keep all this stuff watered, and the next few videos we're going to address that problem. So hopefully that'll be a thing of the past very soon. And these roses here that my mom was growing in these, my mom actually made these these little planter things from those square paving stones you get from Home Depot. And she's got these climbing roses in them, but there's just not enough soil. These really need to be in the ground. So I'm gonna show you where we're gonna transplant them to. I just haven't had time yet. I'm gonna get them out of here and put them over by a fence so that they can grow like they're supposed to, because these aren't the bush varieties. There's my bottle brush that survived multiple transplantings and the snow. That's another one that survived the snow, surprisingly. It died back all the way to the ground though, so I'm gonna, if it hard freezes like that again, I'm gonna bring it inside, I think, and just keep it in a pot, let it grow in that pot. It's got a bunch of that creeping Jenny in it. It's a non-native, but it's a pretty cool little ground cover, so I'm letting it go for now. I've been growing herbs over here. I don't know if you remember, a long time ago we moved these, I think it was when we built the rain barrel stuff, because I had to put the pump where these things were. But I've been growing basil and oregano and mint over here because it's shaded by the house from the harsh sun in the afternoons. Now this pear tree that I don't even know who planted, if my mom planted it or what. I mean, I guess she did. It's old, but it's got bad fire blight, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to save it or not. I don't really know exactly what to do. I know you can use like copper, there's like a copper pesticide that kills, it's a bacteria that does it, but it like can kill the bacteria if you spray it at exactly the right time of year, or you know, you can come out here and cut the tips off of it, and I guess that's what I'm going to try to do first. Kiyomi already did it a little bit last year to try to, because the bacteria grows from the tips in, and maybe if we cut enough of the tips off it can recover, but I'd like to save it because I like to eat those pears. They're really good. So here's where the lemon tree was. Unfortunately, it died too. I was hoping it would have survived for sure, but it didn't. All these citrus died. So I put, this is a southern wax myrtle that we transplanted from the woods. It's real healthy. It's going to be nice there. We got, over here is it's called a swamp teety. It's native to the eastern US at least. I've never seen them down here in the wild, although they might be around here somewhere. So that one gets pretty big. That'll be cool. Some ajuga next to it for ground cover. And then over here, to finish the trilogy, I've got, this is a Carolina cherry laurel. It's another native, I guess you could say, at least of the eastern US. So those will be pretty cool. I think those will screen nicely and it'll look good against that fence as they get bigger, right there. Then you remember we built this in that one video with the oak limbs from the tree that got struck by lightning. Got a nice dianthus in there right now, blooming like crazy. I like that plant. I didn't really know about it till recently, but I definitely like it. We also got some, I think that's salvia, blue bedder salvia in there, and a, what is that? Blue-eyed grass, that's a native. I think I got that one from like a native plant meeting or something that we had not too long ago. And then here in this pot is a native persimmon tree that I'm gonna plant right there where it's sitting in the spring. But I think it'll be a good like second story to that. See how you got that huge oak tree right there? And this will only grow about 20 or 30 feet tall underneath it, probably about 20, 25 feet tall. And I think that's gonna look nice right there as you walk out here. And I also started planting these split leaves that I had in pots. There's two more I still need to transplant out. These were my mom's plants. But, you know, even though they tend to die back in the winter, they generally always come back. Like all those over I showed you by the fence survived that freeze. So, I mean, if they'll survive that, they'll survive anything. They just die and come back. But I kind of planted them over here by the bird bath because they'll just get a lot bigger, and that way we don't have to worry about trying to bring them inside during the winter. Actually, being in the ground is better for the winter because well, if you're gonna leave them outside, than a pot, because the roots are exposed kind of to the air around the pot. you know, it's like 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit colder for the plant being in a pot than being in the ground. The ground protects them. It retains a lot of warmth on those cold snaps. And next to it, I got a little tractor seat plant, what we call a tractor seat plant. That's, I think it's like Farfugium japonica or something. It's from Japan. It grows naturally along the riverbeds and stuff in Japan, so it likes deep shade. So I figured by that bird bath would be pretty cool, and I'll just continue to kind of put similar plants like that around here. But this whole area right here, looking straight over to where you see that metal container way over there, what we're looking at, that's all going to be covered up with black plastic soon. I don't know if I'll do a whole nother video about that because there's not really a whole lot to say about it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But we're going to cover this whole area up right here, and this is going to be more vegetable rows. I forgot the exact dimensions, but these rows are about 27 feet long, and I think this is like 74 feet from fence to over here. So that'll be a significant increase in what we can grow. The funny thing is, like, when that snow hit, you know, I was thinking like, well, there goes the winter garden, but almost everything survived. I mean, of course, that's why you grow this stuff in the winter. It doesn't mind the cold, but I didn't realize that it could survive like being buried under 8 inches of snow for days. Like literally the collard greens were completely buried under snow and we couldn't see them at all for several days, like 3 or 4 days after the snow, and finally it melted and they were fine. Like they were fine, and in fact they're still growing over there. I cut them completely down and they're still trying to come back. We got some more collards over here in that first row, and this is what this is some more radishes, turnips, Swiss chard, and then I think those last two are carrots. But all this is doing well. Like I said, it's just been so dry. It's been so hard to keep up with the watering. So we're gonna spend the next few videos fixing that. Here's another little sasanqua I planted in this. I actually built this from a huge piece of driftwood that washed up down there on the shore, this little bed. And I transplanted a bunch of the spiderwort, those purple spiderwort from when we dug all this out right here to create this little vegetable rows place, there was a bunch of nice looking spiderwort in here and I felt bad to kill them, so I transplanted them over here into this. And there's a little sasanqua blooming that we had transplanted from the other yard. And then on the back here, I just put a bunch of those ferns that my mom had everywhere because I didn't want to kill them either. And here's another place with a bunch of those ferns under this tree, under this oak tree. Just a little fern bed kind of thing I made. Needs to be weeded, it looks like. All that mint growing in it like crazy. And here's just a little one we made along the fence. I've got some natives in here, Turk's cap, purple cone flower. I think that's red salvia right there, or yeah, or scarlet sage it might be. I've got it labeled red salvia, but I don't think that's what it is. And then I think that's butterfly bush maybe, or something like that. Anyway, it's all natives right there. Here's a few remaining plants of the gobo we grew. It's a Japanese root vegetable that it's kind of hard to find here, or if you can find it, it's expensive. So I'm trying to keep those plants. It takes like a year or two to get the seeds out of them. It's one of those type of plants. So I'm gonna see if I can get some seeds out of those. But we successfully grew a lot of gobo here. That was the first year we ever grew anything in this row after creating it. So I was pretty happy about that. We'll see if I can get some seeds out of that, but that's a pretty easy one to grow, and it's used a lot in Japanese cooking and dishes and stuff, so it'd be nice if we can continue to grow that. These jalapeno peppers is like, I mean, I've never gotten, you can still see there's still green peppers on there, but I've never gotten as many peppers off of just a couple plants as I did off of these. I don't know why they did so well, but I've had a lot of success growing in this round horse trough raised bed type of thing. I don't really know what it is, if it's the exact location or just the soil is really good or what. But I made so many jars of hot sauce or salsa or whatever you want to call it out of these things. I just got tired of making it. That's why they got a bunch of peppers rotting on it, because I collected a bunch of seeds, and I just couldn't, you know, it takes a while to make that sauce, and I was like, man, I don't need any more sauce. I got enough for the whole year now. This right here, this is where I'm going to put those roses I showed you a minute ago. I'm going to move that what used to be a bee hotel that's just been sitting there doing nothing. I'm going to move that and put them right here along this fence, make a bed, and just let them climb up that fence. And they'll like that a lot better than those tiny pots that they're in, being able to climb on something. Here's the well bed. This is that, remember that video we did where we talked about keeping the grass out of the beds? This is that one. We had planted an insectary mix in here, which is a bunch of edible plants that make flowers, and it's really just for the pollinators. Right now it's kind of been taken over by the scarlet sage, which is fine because it self-seeds like nothing you've ever seen. But we'll see what happens to that when it freezes, but it's doing fine. I mean, it's not really a major component of the garden, but I like it. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is it's something else I've been working on, although I was waiting for it to cool down to get back on it. But you see that metal roof? That's galvalume, and those screws are starting to rust out because they're the original screws. It's like 20 years old this year, almost 20 years old. And so I got a price on replacing the screws. It was like $5,000. So I was like, man, I'll just do it myself. And I ordered the screws. Even the screws themselves was like I think it was like $2,500 or $2,600 just to get the screws, because it's a lot of screws. And anyway, I've been getting up there and replacing them. I was trying to do it in the summer, and I was like, man, there ain't no way in hell I'm getting back up here. That metal gets so hot, you know, you'd have to get out here at the crack of dawn and start doing it. So, but now's a good time to do it again. I'm probably gonna get back up there and start doing it. I've done all the ones on the ridge cap and at the very top on both sides, and I've done almost all of the bottom on both sides. So now it's just a matter of getting back up there and finishing the middle. It's kind of slippery, you know. It's a bit of a pitch. It's not too terrible, but just being that metal, it's so slippery. If you go slow and you're careful, it's not too bad, I guess. Although it's not fun, but it's got to be done. Luckily, we didn't have any hurricanes this year, so nothing to really rip the roof off. That was really fortunate. So let's see, I guess the only other thing to show is the woods. Here's part of the new trails we cut. So now you can go back through here and get to the western edge of the property line in the woods. They're clearing a bunch of the woods beyond this that we don't own. I guess they're going to build another subdivision back here. I doubt you'll be able to see it, but you can kind of see through there where they're clearing. This is the edge, more or less. It actually goes back a little bit more, but we cleared up to here, and now we can walk north up toward the road. There's a lot of wild blueberries through here we picked, since our blueberries didn't do nothing this year because of the maggot, the blueberry maggot. But we got a bunch of wild blueberries, and there's some huckleberries in here too. This is an old trail that we used to drive the tractor on when I was little, going behind this house. See, all this was farmed when I was a kid. All this land up here. That's why this trail's still here. But we came in here and kind of cut it more. Cleared out some of the underbrush so we can walk through here relatively easily. That way we can go up that way. Let me show you that, where they're clearing to build this subdivision. It's actually through there. You can kind of see how it's cleared the land. I can see the property marker from here. But we cut this out so that we can walk up to the road this way. See, here's property line right there, property marker. But they're clearing through there. You can kind of see how it's cleared maybe. I don't know if you can see through there. But all that's been cleared. That was woods not too long ago. And I guess they're gonna build some kind of subdivision or something. So you can get up to the road there. But let's go back this way because I want to show you something else. So another of our winter projects, probably after the new year, is going to be to come in and cut down this big Bradford pear tree right here. It's growing next to a couple of oaks. But this, see this tree right here? If I can get to it. That one right there with all the trunks coming out of the ground. That's a Bradford pear. So that whole thing needs to come down. And then there's also quite a few Chinese tallow trees in here, popcorn trees, and those are all gonna have to come out as well. And some of them are pretty big. I think we can probably cut down all or most of them. They're not so big, I wouldn't feel comfortable cutting them down. I'm gonna borrow a big chainsaw from my dad. Might even be able to get him in here to help us do this, but at least get his big chainsaw and come in here and chop it up. I'd like to have somebody here so I don't kill myself back here and nobody knows about it. But we cleared this trail here coming through here. See, there's one of those big tallow trees right there. The good thing about most of these is they're not going to fall on anything. So, you know, as long as they don't fall on you. But there's no structures obviously or anything in here. We've got to cut that sucker down right there. Just cut them down in pieces. But like I said, that's going to be a late winter project when there's not too much work going on anywhere else. We cleared through here and made an exit. There's still quite a bit more trails to cut, but now we can get all the way from the house to up here to the main road through the woods if we want to. You can just walk out through there and that's the main road. You're not gonna be able to see them right now, but there's quite a few popcorn trees right here. There's one right there. It's probably 8-9 inches in diameter. They're not super huge up here, but there's a lot of them, so we got some work to do in here. The hard part is getting to them, really, because you got all these wax myrtles and underbrush and stuff, some briars and stuff. It's not going to be super easy to get to them, but a lot of them could honestly probably be cut down with a sawzall. I wouldn't even necessarily need a chainsaw. I'd make it faster to have a chainsaw for some of them that are bigger, but some of the smaller ones I can just sawzall them down. The problem is just getting to them. The other place that really needs trails cut is down by the water on the other side of my mom's house, so that we can walk down to that stream and just get down there in general. It's really grown up. I think I'll probably do that first before I play around in here anymore, because we can already walk through here pretty well. But yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to show you in here. Well, I hope this has given you some idea of what we've been up to. Like I said, we basically decided to not plant anything that isn't going to survive snow on the off chance that we do get it again. I mean, they say that this past winter was a once every 50 years, once every 100 years type of snow, but I don't know that. I mean, it happened in my lifetime and I'm not 50 years old yet, so what's to say it's not going to happen again? And we just can't afford to lose a lot of time growing stuff that's gonna die. Utilizing the perennials, the native perennials I mean, like the ones we transplanted out of the woods and from other places on the property that are growing wild, it just seems like a better way to go in many of the places where we're trying to put perennials, because they're already obviously hardy to this place. They're used to it. They're genetically adapted to this particular microclimate here in Magnolia Bend. They can withstand the droughts and the salinity and the hurricanes and everything else, the hard freezes that we get here. So we're trying to utilize those as much as we can. Now, as you saw, we're not averse to putting non-natives in, but we try to be pretty selective and choose the ones that aren't real fragile that we're going to have to baby, because the property is just too big to sit around and baby every single little plant that you put in. I don't have that kind of time. I mean, I don't know who does. So we're trying to maximize our use of the natives, and we're going to do that going forward. Now, in the next couple of videos, we're going to work on some irrigation and hopefully get that more automated so that when I'm not here, the ground can be getting watered, because these droughts are just too extreme. I mean, I think the very first video we did on this channel was about extreme drought, and here we find ourselves in it once again a few years later. So if we're gonna have these droughts every couple of years, we've definitely got to automate the watering of our garden, especially as it expands. So we're gonna work on that in the next couple of videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, good luck out there.